5G is basically the fifth generation of mobile communication network technology. What the fifth generation is going to enable us to do is basically send larger amounts of information much more frequently across a lot of connected devices. The capacity is much stronger than 4G, and we're going to see a lot of implications of this on our consumers, as well as major industries. So we're going to see things like autonomous transportation, medical research, logistics and manufacturing all get impacted off the back of 5G, which in turn are going to directly impact the consumer. Uh, 100%. The UAE is heavily invested in 5G infrastructure. We've seen this investment play out as the 5G connectivity is growing across many major areas of the Emirates. And so, they do have this vision that they want to implement, and they do believe in the vision because they believe in the efficiencies that this technology is going to bring in ways to improve the quality of life of its citizens. So the UAE is a prime example. One example of this is the fact that the UAE is ranked 9th in autonomous vehicle readiness. So they're investing in the 5G infrastructure, and they're also investing in the road and physical infrastructure required. And the fact that they're ranked 9th globally shows that they are one of the pioneers in investing into the space and ensuring that the customers are going to see the benefits of this. Moreover, there's going to be about 60 million 5G subscribers by 2024 across the Middle East and North Africa. So off the back of this investment, we're going to see a lot of adoption from the consumers. What that's going to lead to essentially is a lot of entrepreneurship, whether it be local, as well as global technology players who are going to want to create products that can be delivered off the back of this 5G infrastructure. So we're going to see a lot of potential revenue coming out of this space. It's an estimated $6 billion worth of revenue by 2030 coming out strictly from the UAE. And from a global perspective, you're talking about $2.4 trillion in economic output just off the back of the 5G infrastructure. In order to understand the implications of 5G on brands and agencies, we have to understand the implication of 5G on the consumer. We may not necessarily know the exact implication, but all you have to do is take a look at the technology previous to 5G, which was 4G. Before 4G, we didn't have access to smartphones. We didn't have access to apps that we use regularly on a day-to-day basis, like Facebook or Instagram, social media. YouTube apps where we can consume content. So none of that really existed before the 4G infrastructure was implemented. And so we can imagine how that changed our lives, how that changed our attention, and how it changed from our perspective in terms of creative agencies or media agencies, the level of skill sets required to enable investment into these channels. And so the Googles, Amazons, and Facebooks obviously received a big chunk of advertising spend because they were effective platforms that were going to capture our attention. And so with 5G, you can imagine an even bigger impact on our lives in terms of all the new things that are going to be available to us in terms of how we are going to live our lives. Autonomous vehicles is one example of that. If all cars or most cars become autonomous, you automatically have a lot more free time. You don't have to be focused on driving a car. You could be sitting and your car not only becomes a vehicle for transport, but it becomes a entertainment hub and a productivity hub. You can stream series, you can have video conferences. And so there are a lot of extra things that you could do now simply because of this technology. On another level, what we can talk about is how there's going to be new avenues for media to invest in. The transfer of data implies a much richer experience, whether it be from a channel or whether it be from a creative element. So things that never truly got adopted with 4G will now get adopted in 5G. So virtual reality is one such example, or augmented reality. Wearable headsets that can receive information immediately. So while you're walking through a mall, you could possibly see an ad that shows you a 30% discount for a specific store. So these types of things require this 5G infrastructure to truly take off. And that's what we're expecting to see in the next 10 years. Every challenge that presents itself comes with its own opportunity. The first challenge that's going to come from 5G is the fact that the governments are already investing in this infrastructure, but you have to have the same investment from businesses. So you have to invest in Wi-Fi infrastructure like Wi-Fi 6, which is the upgrade to the current systems, and as well as have an investment in 5G technology. The idea here is to have a standardized ability to absorb data wherever you are. You need productivity to be equal across the office, the works, your home, as well as when you're on the move. And that's the biggest advantage that 5G is going to enable. It's going to enable us to have equal productivity regardless of where we are. So we might start seeing things like decentralized workforces, where the office space within itself doesn't necessarily have to be the most productive environment. The reason we all work in offices is simply because we need to see each other, we need to communicate. But we have to imagine a world where that doesn't have to be the case, that you can communicate equally as effective while you're in your car or while you're sitting at home and working from there. And so it improves the essential quality of life. It improves your productivity by a great percentage, which is then going to translate to the bottom line and translate to more revenues for all industries. So it is a win-win. The second challenge that comes with its own opportunity is the fact that we have to understand the skill sets that are required to make or maximize this technology. The rate of change is going to be exponential due to that rate of growth that we're talking about. And so people or employees have to be able to be curious. They have to be able to be resourceful so that they can get their answers immediately with this rate of change. We're going to see a large growth in peer-to-peer education. It's something that we're already seeing through the technologies that 4G has enabled. Things like web conferences where we can have a specialist from the US educate a local market or vice versa. So this is going to have to be increasing all the time because of the advancements in the technology and because of the new products and services that are going to arise. So there's going to be a much more rapid increase in the amount of knowledge that everyone has to learn and absorb. And so with that comes a lot of new skill sets, right? So we're going to be talking about what 5G is going to present essentially is a whole new wave of data. And you need skill sets that are going to able to understand all this data. So are we going to be able to read all of this data ourselves, or are we going to have to implement things like artificial intelligence and machine learning that are going to be able to crunch this information so that we can deliver better insights, better returns on investment for our clients? There's going to be a whole new wealth of data coming from all different places. All machine-to-machine communication is going to change everything, and it's going to allow us to change the way we live our lives. You could have your refrigerator communicating with your smartphone, and it tells you that your milk has expired, so it would send a message to your grocery to deliver that to you immediately. So it's small things like that that's going to produce a huge amount of data, and that humans may not necessarily themselves know how to digest this information. It's going to require a lot of advanced machine learning and AI to really make the most out of this information. These types of machine-to-machine communications are going to provide us with a wealth of data, not only in the fields of manufacturing, but in the fields of advertising and marketing. This is data that can be used in order to ensure that we're getting the best results if crunched correctly. So we have to make sure that we have the skill sets, that we are implementing the right solutions, implementing the right technologies that are going to be able to take this wealth of information and deliver on the promise of increased return on investments for our clients, as well as understanding what the most effective channels and mediums are. All of this is going to be made possible with 5G infrastructure as an essential piece of this. The way we live our lives is going to change drastically. The way we invest our money is going to change drastically. And so it's a very exciting period for the next decade.